Okay, so hi everybody. Thanks for joining me today. And My name is Sally Sherman, and I actually I've been in for about 10 years, and have done pretty much have done it all at this point. I've worked in corporate America, I've worked in public accounting, and not too long ago started my own bookkeeping practice. So, and with that said, today I'm going to go ahead and do a quick DIY QuickBooks Online training. And today I'll be going over, like I said in my email, how to choose the best subscription for your business, how to get QuickBooks set up for your business, and last but not least, the basics to how to track your income and expenses in QuickBooks Online. So with that, I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit about bookkeeping in itself. And bookkeeping is really simple. It's just about tracking your income and tracking your expenses. And for me, one of the best tools that I have worked with so far, especially for a small business, is QuickBooks Online. So it's a product that I really learned to love at this point. Had to admit, I did not love it when I first started working with it, and coming from working on QuickBooks Desktop. So now I've used it quite a bit, and I really think it's a good product, and it's minimized and sped up the work itself like so much for me. So that's why I'm like total QuickBooks Online evangelist at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. So then I'll walk you through, like I said, from beginning of setting up your file. So I'm going to share the screen. And what you want to do is you want to go to QuickBooks50.com. So once you go to that website, it'll take you to basically the 3 different subscriptions that are available for QuickBooks Online. And what you have is, we have QuickBooks Online Simple Start, we have QuickBooks Online Essentials, and we have QuickBooks Online Plus. So really quick, like I said, there's 3 different subscriptions. And the most popular one that I suggest most people start with is the QuickBooks Online Essentials. Here, the middle one, which starts at $7.50 a month. And from this site specifically, I think you get a 50% discount, as you can see, because typically you would be paying $35 a month, and with this discount through this website, it's $17.50. So from here, what you do is, or actually I should tell you the difference between the 3 of these is QuickBooks Simple Start. I discourage people from using that one just because there's you can only have 1 user, and it's very limited. So for an extra $7, you can actually have 3 users, which is the Essentials. You get to have 3 users. You get to track any bills that any bills from your vendors, and you also get to track your own invoicing. So you get to create your own invoices, create your own estimates, as well as manage and pay your bills. And I think like the most important one there is having more users on the account itself. So you'll be able to share it, if you're doing it for yourself and your business, then you get to share it with your accountant, which will save you a lot of time and hassle, come tax time. And with QuickBooks Online, I'd say the most important part of QuickBooks Online is that, like it says down here, it helps you track inventory, and it also helps you keep track and prepare and print the 1099s, which some of you should be receiving or probably working in the process of issuing within the next couple of days. So like I said, for most people who are starting out, I definitely would just go with the QuickBooks Online Essentials. The Plus, if you have inventory, then that's a whole nother story. I would definitely go with that one. But when you're starting out, just go with the Essentials, because it'll have everything you need, like it says. So once you're ready to go, you go and click Start Free Trial. And so through this link, you actually get to start a free trial. I think it's like a 30-day free trial, and what it does is it'll take you to this place this site where you get to sign up. And I already went ahead and signed in. It doesn't ask you for credit card information, which is also really important. So it just lets you kind of get in there and get familiar before you actually commit to purchasing the product. So the first screen, I guess I should back up and say that it'll ask you for an email address and, it'll ask for email and password, basically. So that's the only two things that you need to start your account with. And then you have that, it'll bring you to this window, which just asks you to, name your business. And so I'm just going to go ahead and call it my new business. And then it'll ask you, how long have you been in business? And there's really no right or wrong answer when it comes to this. So, I'm just going to say 1 to 2 years because it really doesn't matter. Now, if you're one of those people who is coming from QuickBooks Desktop and to QuickBooks Online and just want to try it out, you have to click this box down here, and then it'll kind of take you through a separate setup. And I'm assuming most people who are starting out are not coming from a desktop version, so I'm going to skip that part for now. But if you have questions about that, feel free to, put them in the chat, and then I can answer them as we go. So in this case, if you're new to QuickBooks Online and new to QuickBooks altogether, just leave this box blank, and all you need is the business name and how long you've been in business. And then you click next. And it takes you, what are your most important business goals for this year? You can click, whatever you like at this point. We'll just say to lower my expenses. Click next, and it says, what would you like to start with today? So this is basically one of the first screens that you see on here, and is asking you, what do you use in your business, right? So do you use invoicing, organize your expenses, manage your inventory, which is not applicable for this version, track your retail sales, track your sales tax. And so, you don't really have to worry about any of this. You can just click all set, and that should be good enough. So, as you can see here at the top, it says your trial ends in 30 days. So I encourage everybody to, sign up. Why not? And, check it out and really get that familiarity. Also, another thing I forgot to point out is once you actually are at that same site, the QuickBooks 50, what you can do is you can take a test drive with their sample company. So if you really don't even want to go through the hassle of signing up for a company for yourself, you can test drive their sample company, which we'll go over in a little bit later. But it's great. Not that window. So this is where you'll end up once you have everything. Once you create an account, once you enter your business name and what have you. So this is the screen that you'll see, once you've logged in. And so I'll just go through what this all is and what it means. So on this side, you have this ribbon that includes the dashboard, and this is what we're looking at. It's the dashboard. So whenever you want to come back to the screen, just click on the link right here. Then we have banking. This is where your bank information lives and bank feeds, which I'll go into a little bit later. Then you have your sales. So this is where you would create invoices, where you can see your customer list. So anything involved with sales, customers, invoicing, credit memos, all of that lives on this little tab here of the sales. And expenses, this deals with all the expenses. So that would be any bills any vendor payments, credit card expenses, anything to do with money that's outgoing and the vendor list and what have you, that goes in that section. Now, the next one is workers, and under workers, you have employees and contractors. So you'd be able to access your employees through there. And that's if you're wanting to set up QuickBooks Online payroll, which is something that's available with the Essentials and the Plus, and it's at an additional cost. If you have more questions about that, I can go over that in more detail. But usually, when you're a small business and you're just starting out, you're not dealing with payroll. Mostly you're dealing with contractors. So if you have any subcontractors, like let's say a VA, or graphic designer, social media manager, whatever that is, you can go ahead and set them up through there. Now we have reports, and this actually will give you access to all the different reports that are in QuickBooks Online. And this is actually pretty robust report list, in my opinion, for what, just the small business needs. So you have the basic ones and your favorites, your balance sheet, a profit and loss, and you can pretty much find it all in here. And if not, you can actually build custom reports for yourself, and have management reports as well in these other tabs. So you get any custom reports you create will sit in here, and the management reports will sit in here. So you have company overview, sales performance, and expenses performance. So just some of the basic ones that QuickBooks Online has set up for us. Next, we have taxes. So this would be where you would see, if you have the QuickBooks Online payroll, you would see any of the payroll-related tax stuff in here. And then you'd see any of the sales tax as well would be tracked in this tab. And next, you have your accounting tab, and you have your chart of accounts and reconcile. So from here, you get to access your chart of accounts, or you're able to reconcile. So this is where like the meat of the accounting is basically, and then my accountant. So through this tab, you actually can just type in your accountant's email in here and invite them, and so they'll be able to log into your QuickBooks Online file and help pull out any reports that they may need, or just help you troubleshoot in any way. And now if you don't have an accountant or a bookkeeper, and you need like the extra help, and you can actually find a pro through QuickBooks Online. They have a directory of certified pro advisors, I believe, and other just professionals who work with QuickBooks Online, and I think QuickBooks Desktop. I'm listed on there, and so are many other people. And then there's reviews and contact information, or if you're looking for somebody who specializes in a certain industry or what have you, that's you go ahead and find somebody through there. And lastly, we have the apps. So this is if your business wants to connect with any apps. Some of the top apps I would say would probably be Receipt Bank, which helps you keep track of all your receipts. I'm sure some of you have heard of Expensify, and that helps you track your expense reports. Let me see what else there's some other reporting apps out there. But I think as a young business, as a new small business, that's kind of something you don't need to worry about too much when setting it up. Well, you can also, add some other apps on here, which, you guys can take a look to see if anything really applies to your business. Here's another popular one, which is T-Sheets, and that's a time tracking app. But yeah, and like there's, some Shopify and some reporting, and there's also some HR apps, I think, in here. So yeah, I think just about anything you can definitely find it. Okay, so that's the ribbon. And on here you have this little, I would call it like a hamburger, I think I've heard it called in the past. And what it does, it just brings you, gives you more space to work on, so you're not looking at this ribbon on the side. And then here at the top is really important icons, right? So this is the I'd say to add, right? So it has a plus sign. So this is whenever you need to add any sort of transaction, or it's actually called, I think, the create icon. So this is when you need to create a new transaction within QuickBooks Online. So this is, and it says create right up here. So you have 4 different sections. You have your customer section, right? So this is what you'd click to create an invoice, to create, to receive a payment, to create an estimate, to create a credit memo, sales receipt, refund receipt, delayed credit, delayed charge. Now on the vendor side, you have your expense, how to create a check, how to create a bill, how to pay bills, create a purchase order. And if you see that little arrow pointing up, that means that purchase orders are not a part of this subscription, the QuickBooks Essential subscription. So you need to upgrade for that one. Then you have the vendor credit, the credit card credit. You have the next section is employees. And so as you see, payroll is not part of like our tests, our new business right now. So we need to upgrade to use this tab. But you can use the single time activity, and you can use the weekly timesheet, which is available. And you have the bank deposit. So if you're creating a bank deposit or if you're creating a transfer, and that could be a transfer from one account to, from your checking account to your savings account, or if you're paying a credit card from your business checking account, then that would be useful there. Then you have journal entries. I suggest most people stay away from journal entries just because they're very complicated. If you don't necessarily understand the accounting equation that's running QuickBooks Online. So I'd refer to, your CPA or to, somebody, tax professional to help you deal with journal entries. And I think it's just a feature most people wouldn't, use in the course of their business. Next, we have this the little search icon up here. And so this is where you can search any transactions, and you can do an advanced search. So, if you need to find a transaction, it just says you can look for all the transactions. You can look for a bill payment or specifically, or what I typically do is I just search by amount. But that's just me, and an easy way to do that. Next you have, next you have the gear icon. And so this one's also really important. And this is where the main settings of your company are. So you have the, under your company, you have your account and settings, you have the ability to manage users, custom form and style. So this is when you want to customize your sales receipt, you want to customize your invoicing, that all happens there. You have your chart of accounts. Then you have QuickBooks Labs, which is not really important. Some of the new features that QuickBooks may be testing out at the time. And then under list, you have your product and service all lists. So this would be your product and service list and any reoccurring transactions. And that's another really good time-saving tool in QuickBooks Online, is that if you have transactions that reoccurring, you can just set them up to be reoccurring. Like, let's say you invoice somebody every day of the month the same amount, and you get to set that up on reoccurring, and it's just like a set it and forget it, and it's a way to automate your QuickBooks Online file. Another one is if you don't want to go ahead and through entering expenses, like let's say for your office rent, you just go ahead and set up a reoccurring payment or a check, so it'll just show up on QuickBooks, and you don't need to not go in there every month and manually enter it. So it'll just pop up on its own as scheduled. Next, we have the tools, and this is where you get to import data. And I'll go in a little bit more into detail with that. And you get to import your desktop data. So this would be in the case where we're moving from a QuickBooks desktop file to a QuickBooks Online file. This is to export any data. So if you needed to export your file, if you're moving to a different system, or if you just want to just need it for various reasons, that's where you would find that. Reconcile, that's another really important part of bookkeeping. And then budgeting. To use budgeting, we'd actually, as you guys can see, we'd need to upgrade, and then you have your audit log. So with the audit log, you get to see all the, anybody who's used your QuickBooks Online file, you get to see what time they logged in and if they made any changes. So when you're sharing your file, or you have your employees working in there, you can go and see what they've done. And it's a really good tool in figuring out if who changed what, and how to reverse it or how to fix it if that entry was incorrect in any way. You're also able to order checks through this link right here where it says order checks. QuickBooks just is a really good solution for a lot of business owners, where they just kind of help you make the decision process really easy by giving you the tools like payroll. You can order checks, you get your accounting system, you can have QuickBooks payments through them, so you can, like a merchant services account, so you can actually take credit cards or ACH transfers with them, and Smart Look, and that's just another one tool down there that you can use. And then your profile, this is you can provide feedback to QuickBooks Online. So if you have something that's specific to you, or something that's not working, or maybe like a wish item, then you can definitely give feedback to into it. So those are basically, and if you have questions, you can That's pretty self-explanatory. But that's the basics of once you log in. So I think it's just a great. Oh, okay. So I saw that there was a question about the address again, and so that's quickbooks50.com. So for to access this this screen right here, where you can check out the test company or start your your risk-free 30-day trial down here. And I highly suggest you do that. Try it out, see if you like it. And obviously get 30 days to try it out for your own business. Now, next, what we'll do is I'll actually go a little bit more into detail with bookkeeping. So with bookkeeping, like I said, the goal is to track your income and to track your expenses. So how do we do that, and how does QuickBooks Online help you do that? So one of the first steps that you want to do once you've gotten familiar with the QuickBooks Online and where everything is, the first step you want to take is actually set up your bank feeds. So what does that mean? That means that QuickBooks is going to be pulling all your banking information from, whether it's Chase, whether it's Wells Fargo, whoever, right? It's going to be pulling in each transaction into this inbox per se. And I like to call it, and to have people think of it as an inbox, because it just sits there for you to process it. So it's not necessarily going and hitting into any of your registers or it's in your file. It's just an inbox that's just kind of sitting there and pending, waiting for you to process it. So what you do is you go and you connect all your bank accounts, and you connect your credit card accounts. You can also connect to your PayPal account. So that's also a really cool feature, because I know a lot of people use PayPal to pay vendors or receive payments through PayPal. So you can go ahead and sync that up as well. And for those of you that are familiar with Mint, it works very similarly to what Mint does. It doesn't. I don't think there's any security issues. It just pulls transactions. It's not like you're able to make any changes. So it's just really secure. It's just informational, and it comes in really handy, because what it does is eliminates the data entry. So now when you first connect your bank account to QuickBooks for the bank feeds, what happens is that you can only bring in the last 90 days of data. So if we were doing it today, I would only be bringing in the last 90 days. So if I wanted to go ahead and bring in the entire, let's say I wanted to bring in all of 2018, then I'd go ahead and bring in, I'd have to manually go ahead into log into Chase, log into Wells Fargo, and download all of those transactions in a file, and then upload them back into QuickBooks Online, also reducing any data entry. So if you want to learn more about that, I can go over that in more detail later. So next step is just, click connect, and QuickBooks has a connection with, almost everybody. So here are some of the popular ones. You have American Express, Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, US Bank, Capital One, and there's some smaller banks in here too. But I think these are just the most popular ones. So once you do that, let's click on Bank of America. It will just, just click continue through here, and then it'll take you on the, to this window to actually log in. And maybe Bank of America was not the best choice there. So you can try Chase. So you just click continue, and the same thing. It'll pop up a window for you to log in to begin bringing in all of your the last 90 days of transactions. So once that's done, and I'm going to click over here into the sample company file so you guys can see what that actually looks like. So this is the test file that I was telling you guys about, and this is the Craig's Design and Landscaping. And as you can see, this is a file that already has data in there. And so once you have your file set up and you have data in there, you'll be able to see on here on your dashboard any, your invoices. You have what was deposited, what hasn't been deposited, what's overdue, and what's not due yet. So what's up, what's coming due in the next And then you have your expenses, and this is for the last months, and it really breaks it down to where your money is going. So, and through and using the dashboard, it gives you a quick insight into, what you're spending your money on, how your business is doing. So it gives you insight into the health of your business. Next, you have the profit and loss. So this is very, just very summarized numbers here. You have like your income and your expenses. So you can see, by the little graphics right here, you pretty much breaking even at that point. And you can actually select if you want to see this month, this quarter, and it'll change. So you see quarterly where you looks a lot better. And then you have sales for the month. So that's another really good tool down here. So now going on to, I'm sorry, I think this is hidden on my screen, but you have the 3 bank accounts. So in this file, they've already been connected. So you have a checking account that's connected, a savings account that's been connected, and MasterCard. You see here, you get to see what's sitting in your inbox, as I like to call it. So you have 25 transactions sitting in your inbox. You have 1 for savings, and you have 7 sitting in your inbox for the MasterCard credit card. So now we go over to the banking tab, and this is what I was talking to you guys about. Once you connect your bank to your QuickBooks Online file, it'll bring it'll import all these transactions on here. So you can see there's quite a few in there, and let's see. So this probably is rent, and this is what it'll look like. So you'll have 90 days worth of transactions, and this is where you get to categorize your income and expenses. So this is basically where it all starts. So let's see here. I want something that's not okay. Let's Tim Philip Masonry. So the next step, once you have everything in here, is to get this into your QuickBooks Online file. So like I said, this is sitting in the inbox, and what you do is you add each transaction, and on here it already is recognizing Tim Philip Masonry. So you type it in. If it's in there, you get to just select that vendor, and next you get to select an expense category. So I'm gonna say this is a meals and entertainment expense, just because. So you just go ahead and select that expense category, and in this drop down, you'll see where all of your expense categories are. Now, QuickBooks has some default expense categories for you, and I think that's something I'll cover right after we wrap this one up. And you can, just add this into your register. Once you've selected the vendor, you have the category, the expense category, and you just go ahead and you click add in here. Now, something to note is that, let's say you need to, this was an expense that was incurred for a client, and you want to go ahead and you track that. You can actually go in here and select a customer that this expense gets tagged to. So let's say this was Cool Cars. And then here's another little box here that's important, is if you actually would want to bill this back to your customer, you would click billable. And in this case, we'll just track it with our customer. And I went back out here. Let me see. Okay, so where did, there we are again. So we said this was meals and entertainment, and we would code it to the Cool Cars, which is our customer. And you just go ahead and add it, and then it'll be removed. And as you can see, this little window popped out here, and this transaction has been added. Now, I'm going to take a couple steps back here, is going into your chart of accounts. So your chart of accounts, as I had mentioned, is where your list of income and expenses. So this is the accounts or the buckets where income will be put into, will be tracked under, or expenses will be tracked under. And so I'm just going to click see your chart of accounts. So as you can see, we have the checking set up, an account set up for checking, an account set up for savings. We also have that credit card and MasterCard, and we also have a Visa in here. And like I said, this is a test file, so there's some accounts on here that may already be established. But as you can see here, you have different income accounts. So in this file, we have, let's see, the first one's the billable expense income. We have design income. We have discounts given. So that would be for the account where if you issue any discounts to your customers, you would have that account set up there. You have job materials income. You have a landscaping services income account. And this is, none of this is really necessary. You can just have a general income account, which is called services or, what have you. You don't necessarily have to break it down into, into more detailed accounts. So, and next, as you can see, there's tons of income accounts in here. Next, you have some of the general expenses, which are advertising, automobile, and in this case, they're breaking it down by fuel. You have bank charges. You have commissions and fees, disposal fees, dues and subscriptions, equipment rentals. And I've actually created a list of the common deductions and also how you want to mirror your chart of accounts in QuickBooks Online. So I can go ahead and send that out to you guys after this, just for an idea of what you actually need to track. And like on here, they have the legal and professional fees. So you'd want to keep track of what you're paying for accounting, what you're paying for bookkeeping, what you're paying for legal fees. And then you have maintenance and repairs, meals and entertainment, office expenses. So this would be any, general expenses like paper, pencils, right? Any office equipment like that. Then, rent and lease. You have your stationery and printing, supplies. So the list is really endless when it comes to this one, but just to give you an idea of what the chart of accounts looks like for this company specific. And like I said, there is already a chart of accounts that's built in with QuickBooks Online once you set up the file on its own. So then you go ahead and, like I said, step number one that I use the 3-step process when doing bookkeeping. And the first step is actually to make sure that all the data is in QuickBooks Online, right? So that means that clearing out all the bank feeds. Number 2 would be to verify that all the data is complete. And the way we do that is through a bank reconciliation. I know some of you may have heard of a bank reconciliation, but that's like just one of the standards when it comes to accounting, bookkeeping, and it's it's a basic best practice, so to speak. It's in my opinion, it's a must. And through a bank reconciliation, you get to identify any, mistakes that you've made, right? If any mistakes that your bank has made, and you get to identify if any payments, are still pending, checks that haven't cleared the bank, or checks, just any fraud, anything that shouldn't have been happening. So what bank reconciliation does is it helps you match up all the transactions that are show up on your bank statement at the end of the month versus what you have in QuickBooks Online. So at the end of the day, those two should line up perfectly. There should be no difference. And that's why it's called the reconciliation, because you reconcile one with the other and they should match exactly. So if you see something that's off, then, you call your bank, or maybe it's your QuickBooks Online file that, where the error is. So that's the next step. And then, so that's step 2. And step 3 is actually to review once you put everything into its, categories. You get to review it through the reports, and the report that most people will look at is the profit and loss. And this is how you see how things are sitting, how income has been categorized. So as you can see, you have, let's see, what month are we looking at? Let's look at last year if there's any data in there. Last year, and you run the report. So now you can see how much we made in design income, discounts given, landscaping services, and then you have, let's see, where's the total? Okay, so here at the very bottom, you have your total income. And then after you have your total income, you have all your expenses. So you have automobile, and this is where, the chart of accounts, and these are the individual buckets of what we're tracking, right? And you see here is the total, you have your utilities, and you have the total expenses, total other expenses and total expenses, which we arrive at your net income. So Net income is income minus expenses. That's just really the basics of it. So once we, we have, like I said, once we have all the data and we verify that it's complete, we go ahead and review that everything is sitting in the proper category. So we want to make sure that everything that's sitting in meals and entertainment belongs in meals and entertainment. Like, for example, this is the transaction that we added not too long ago. So we go ahead and let's say this actually wasn't a meals and entertainment, but we see like Bob's Burgers, obviously, and then this Temple of Masonry. So let's say that was a different type of expense. We want to open it up. We want to click over to the category, and we want to go over, let's say this was promotional, and a promotional expense that we have. So I go ahead and select the new category and click over here at the bottom right-hand corner and save and close it. So that would be like the 3-step process that I use, and when it comes to bookkeeping. So now when you're doing the, once you've had all your transactions in there, and now you're actually, doing it, using it for a day-to-day, what you do is you would go over, let's say you needed to create a check, you'd go over here to the top or to the create icon, and let's say we needed to create a check for a vendor. And so you click check, and next, this is the window that will pop up, and you get to select your vendor. Let's look through here. We'll write a check to Cal Telephone to pay a bill, and you select the bank account. This will be through using the checking account, and it'll automatically fill out the mailing address if it's already in the database, and the payment date. We can choose today's date. Now, a check to pay their telephone bill would actually fall into the category of utilities. So we can go ahead and click utilities, and we have a sub-account, which is the account telephone. So we can go ahead and click that one. You can add a description, and what I do is I actually add what month that was. So we can say January 2019. And if I ever need to reference back, then I can see what that payment was for. And on here, you get to enter your amount. We can enter 150. And you can actually see if this expense needs to be billed back to your customer, your client, and if you want to just tag it to a customer. And next, what you do is if you want to print the check later, right? And so this is after the fact, once you've ordered checks through QuickBooks Online or through another provider, you can use their computer checks and just set them up to print later. If you're not using that and you're just writing out checks manually, but want to record the check in QuickBooks Online, all you need to do is, you don't need to click that. I would just enter whatever check number that is. So let's say that was 1234 from your checkbook number, and I would just save and close it. So that's how you enter a check. And next, let's say we needed to create an invoice for our customer. So we go ahead into the create icon, and we go over here and select your customer, and we will select pool cars, and like I said, it will populate. So the terms is an important one, because this is when your invoice will actually be due. So based on these terms is the due date. We'll change the due date. So if we change that to 60, you see if it's dated today, then it'll be due in March. But most likely you want to have your invoice due on receipt. So it'll just change things up for you. And next, you have the product or service. So in this case, let's say we're billing them for gardening, right? And this is a product and service. This is from the products and service list. So this is something that you get to add. And, we'll say it's weekly gardening services for January. Quantity 1, and we get to have a rate of 100. And I don't know if that's what, I'm just making these numbers up. And if anything was taxable, you would be able to mark that, and tax will be calculated within this invoice. Next, you have, let's see, you can also add another line down here. So let's see what we have. We can say we also had like design. So we just said we had custom design services. And this was 2, and the rate was 25. So that comes out to, 75 actually, to 150. And you can write in a quick message like this one: thank you for your business, have a great day. What I do also, I would add that, please make checks payable, or I said, write in payment instructions, and they're like send a check through PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. So that's really helpful. And what you do at the bottom is you save and close. And now on here, I forgot to mention this really important part, is that you can actually invoice and email your invoice using QuickBooks Online directly. So you can click send later to send if you're just working on a bunch of invoices, and we'll send them, let's say, tomorrow or later in the day. Or you can actually click here and save, and there's like a save and send. There's a save and send, which is the default one. So this invoice is perfect and ready to go. So it's gonna send it. And so if I click save and send, and it'll pop up this window, and this is where you get to see what your invoice looks like. You get to have your subject, and some of the stuff is already pre-filled, and it says, "Dear Grace Partners, Parente." I'm sorry, my eyesight's not that great. And just a little blurb. You can, customize it to whatever you want it to, and then you get to save and close. And if we go back to the sales tab, like I had mentioned to you guys, you get to see, you have the overview, and you have all sales, which is all the invoices. It just gives you a summary of like what's out there. So you have 0 estimates, you have 2 unbilled activities, you have 10 overdue invoices, you have 21 open invoices, and what's this last one down here? Oh, and then you have 12 invoices that were paid in the last 30 days. So this is where you get to do invoicing. You have your customer list in here, like I mentioned, and here's all your invoices. The invoice that we so here's the invoice that we just created. It's sitting there. And here's the list of products and services. And this is also pretty important. You want to make sure that you set this up as a consultant or a service provider. You want to go ahead and set up, coaching. You want to set up like social media management, right? Those would be your different products that you have in there. And like I said, now going to the expense tabs, there's the check that we wrote to Cal Telephone. So you can see that in there. And you can have the list of expenses here by clicking on that, where we're at. And then you have your list of vendors. So if you ever need to, just want to go in here to Bob Burger's Joint, you can go ahead and create a bill for him. You can create an expense. You can write a check. You can create a purchase order or make inactive. So there's just a lot of different ways to get around things. So if you want to create some, enter some bills, or you want to create some checks, you can just go into this, the list of customers and be able to quickly create some of these items or transactions. Now you can also set up a new vendors using this. So you just click new vendor, and you have that window that pops up, and you just enter all the information, save and close. And once that's done, that new vendor will show up here on this window. And like I said, the reports tab here is another one that's important to look at. And like I said, probably the most important one would be the profit and loss, where it's telling you your income, your expenses. And that's what you can do it by month, you can do it by year, you can do it quarterly. by week. So it doesn't matter. It's whatever, whatever your needs are. And next you have other reports down here, which have your business overview. You have your, also, I shouldn't fail to mention the balance sheet, and then you have your accounts receivable aging summary. So your accounts receivable aging summary is the report where all the open invoices sit for your QuickBooks, any invoices you created for your customers, and so that's invoices you're awaiting payment on. Now you have, so it's more of that, the same as like who owes you. So you have a detailed report. You can have the summary, which is starred because it's part of our favorites. So anytime you want to have a report be part of your favorites, you just click on it and it should become part of your favorites. Okay, I think it's, yeah, there we go. And you have an invoice list. So there's quite a few reports that you can use down here. And sales tax, employees for my accountant. So those are reports that are pertinent to your accountant. And like I said, taxes and accounting. Now, so let's see, I've gone over how to create, I've gone over how to create an invoice. I've gone over how to create a check. I can go over how to receive payment. So when you need to receive a payment, that's, let's say a customer has sent us a payment, and I think we, see if we have, let's pick Amy's Sanctuary. Let's say we received a payment from her, and we can say the payment method was a check, and the reference was 5432. And this would get deposited to, I would select undeposited funds, and the amount received was $239. And once you have that set in, you'll have the list of invoices that are open. So this is where you get to see all the invoices that you've created that still are waiting for payment. And in this case, we only have one invoice, and that's that invoice 1021. So we go ahead and click the box. And as you can see, the amount to credit is 0. So the amount received and the invoice amount match. So we go ahead and close this. So that's how you receive a payment. And let's click again here. What we can also enter a bill. So this is how to enter a bill from a customer, from a vendor. So what you can do is, let's see, we have a bill. We could say we have a bill from Computers by Jenny, and let's say the bill was dated January 1st, and it was due, it's due on the 31st. So this helps you, if once you enter your bill date and your due date, it helps you keep track of, what's outstanding and who you owe and when, you need to pay that. You have your bill number box up here, so you can just, enter the bill number for reference. And your category, let's see what category this would fit under. So assuming this was Computers by Jenny, let's say we rent computers from Jenny, and we can say equipment rental, and we can just say computer rental, let's say January. And that's just the description. So if we ever need to go back in there, we double check. And now we can go ahead and enter the amount, and the amount, let's say, is 500. And you can write a memo. But so when we enter a bill, this is if we, assuming this was January 1st, we're entering the bill, and the bill doesn't need to be paid on the 31st. So instead of trying to keep all this information in your head of like, who do I owe, when do I need to pay them, you put it into QuickBooks Online, so then you set it and forget it. And once it's time, you can actually go through your report. You could do it on a monthly basis. You could do it on a weekly basis and see what invoices you need to pay. So next, you just close. You can just go ahead and click Save and Close, and the bill was saved. And I will show you where that's actually. So if you go to Expenses, you see that you have, so on here you have Open Bills, and There we go. So it's sitting right there, that one open bill. So when you needed to see who you needed to pay with, and it was coming up soon, this is the list that you would be looking at of once you need to know who you owe and by when you need to pay them. And this is the orange is what bills are overdue now. So that needs attention. And these are all the bills that you paid within the last 30 days. Okay. And I think I had a couple of questions. Let me find my chat. Okay. Okay, so the reference numbers, where do you start those from? If you are just starting, I assume you just start at 1 or, yeah. So I would just start, for invoicing, I would just start at 001 for your invoices, or you could start at 1,000. Either one works fine, so just pick one. And then next question is, so that's for invoicing, but then once you receive invoices from somebody else, that reference number is on the invoice, so you just take that and put it into your records. And next it says, next question is, how do you record a rebate check you receive from a vendor? So do you mean a rebate check from services you purchase? Is it like a refund check? Is that what you mean, Lori? Yes, okay. So the way that you would record a refund check is you actually would go ahead and click here on the add, where you create something, and you can just receive, you'll receive a payment, and you go ahead and you enter, who it came from. You can enter let's say it was a rebate refund check from the telephone company. You just enter the telephone company, enter the amount, and then once it asks you for a category, you make sure that you enter the same category that you used in the beginning. So if this was a telephone or utilities expense, you make sure to put it back into that same bucket. So it offsets that. But yeah, that's a good question, and it's definitely a simple fix there. So next, like I said, we do want to make sure to reconcile. So once all your information's in there, you click over to the other, to the tools section and reconcile, and it'll pull up what you want to do. And it says reconcile an account, just click yes. And it says reconcile like a pro. So just let's do it. And then here you have under account, the list of accounts that you have on your, set up on your file. And we're just going checking. Your beginning balance was 5,000. Your ending balance, let's say, was 3,000. And the ending date was, we would be reconciling for last month. So we'll click reconcile. And in this window, you just get to go ahead and select just the different items that clear the bank. So in this case, you would pull up your bank statement. You would pull up this window and just go and click through, just click through each one that had cleared the bank based on your bank statement. And once you get to that point, you'll get to zero. It should zero out. So the difference should say 0, and you'll have a little green checkbox, and then you'll be able to reconcile. But because this is a test company, I'm not sure if I'll be able to get to that 0 quickly based on, we're pretty short on time at this point. So now, like I said, I've gone over the basics, and like I said, where you want to start is really setting up your file and setting up your bank accounts here in the bank feeds, and making sure that all your data is collected and you're putting it in categorized and into the right buckets for yourself. And then the next step would be to reconcile. So I would say those are really the basics, and how to create invoices for yourself, for your business, and how to enter expenses and checks. And I think to start off, that's all you really need to know. And this would be, just familiarize yourself with entering new customer information, entering new vendor information, like I said, setting up your bank feeds, and then, going slowly building that up. And then you get into a routine where you're doing it on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis. And then it becomes very, it becomes very painless, and it's minimal work. And come the end of the year, you have everything set up to turn over to your tax person, and have that process go a lot smoother. And this saves you from having to save receipts or keeping an Excel file where you're tracking these things. So I would say, go ahead and, you can move out of Excel into this and try it out and see how you like it. It just has a lot more, it reduces the data entry time, and it just saves you a lot of time, in my opinion. So I definitely highly recommend it for you to use within your business, or for, even if you have, well, I know some people would want to use it for, they're managing rental properties. So that's another good one, and a little bit more advanced. So like I said, I hope that you enjoyed today's training. And, all I ask that if, in return, is that if you guys could provide some feedback. I'll be emailing the recording of today's session. And also, like I said, with a link to some feedback, I'd love any feedback, or if you guys have any questions. Like I said, this is the second one that I've done. I'm definitely not a pro at this. And so would appreciate any feedback and how to make these go, better. And if you guys, provide some feedback or questions so that I can make each one better. So do we have any other questions or anything you guys would want to go over before we wrap up? I'll give you guys a couple of minutes here. No, thanks, guys. I had a, love sharing my QuickBooks knowledge. It's something that I picked up for, I think it's been years in the making. And like I said, feel free to, reach out with any questions. You guys have my email. And but yeah, I will look forward to connecting you with you in the future. Thank you. Bye.